What up, what up, what up, what up? Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is Friday. That means it is Q&A day. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I would love to answer all of your questions, ease all of your concerns, any of those things. We're here to hang out, to have some fun. Hope you're having an amazing day. Oh, man. What is going on? Happy New Year. Um, all that good stuff. Hello, everybody. What's going on? How are applications coming this last cycle? How are we? If you're applying this next cycle, what what's going on in your head right now for that as well? There's lots of fun stuff going on. All right. Oh, what questions do you guys have this morning? I'll be here for about 50 minutes. We can hang out, chat about life, personal statements, uh, the world, all of those good things. There's a lot going on. Hope everyone had a happy, healthy new year. I've had this super flu for like 3 weeks now. I'm still getting over it. So if I mute myself and go on a little coughing fit, that is why. Um, yeah, I would say from a medical school admissions standpoint, for those that are in the current cycle, how many of you in the current cycle? Um, we're still seeing interview invites go out. Our team keeps track of the students that we're working with. Let me look and see. Interview invites. So yesterday, we reported 3 interview invites the day before, another one the day before that, 3 more. So, interview invites are coming out still. So as much as we talk about, kind of Thanksgiving being the, time that you should start thinking about another application, I would say that, you really need to also explore, um other things as well. Alrighty. I have 2,500 hours of clinical, 600 of research, 150 hours of shadowing, 200 hours of volunteer work. But I don't have a lot of campus involvement. What does campus involvement mean? When we're looking at an application, nowhere ever does campus involvement cross my mind. So I wouldn't worry about campus involvement. That's not something that matters. If you have another thought or you've been told something different, expand on that a little bit more because I would love to understand that thought process a little bit more. Is it too late to get acceptances, rejections? Do all colleges send rejections? Is it too late to add more schools? apply in January for the current cycle. I would say it's probably too late to add schools. I mean, it's late. Um, Maybe a DO school here or there. I said this the other day, and no shade is meant, although shade is being thrown. Do you want to go to a school that is desperate enough to look at new applications coming in right now still? That tells me there's something broken there. Um, is it too late to get acceptances? Absolutely not. Rejections? It's never too late to get rejections. No, not all schools send rejections, which is one of my biggest pet peeves in this process is that schools don't communicate well enough throughout this process. So you may have zero shot at a school and they'll ghost you until the last day. So I hate it, but that's the way it is. Why does the AAMC ask for transcripts older than 10 years if med schools don't look at them? Who says med schools don't look at them? Who says med schools don't look at them? You have to remember, I'll bring this question back up. You have to remember the AAMC, I'll remove the AAMC. AMCAS, which is run by the AAMC. AMCAS serves, let's just round up. It's about 150 schools. I don't know specifically off the top of my head. It's about 150 schools. So you may have, let's say, cut it in half. 75 schools say, you know what, we just don't care about transcripts older than 10 years old. And 75 schools say, you know what, we do care about transcripts older than 10 years old. Therefore, AMCAS, as a central application service, has to ask for transcripts because half of the schools that they are providing applications to want those transcripts. So it's not the AAMC specifically, potentially, it's the schools. Now, if you say schools don't look at them, never, ever, 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 ever talk about schools as one big homogenous group. Every medical school is different. So we cannot say with 100% certainty that med schools don't look at them. Maybe 0.001% of them look at them. There goes the argument that med schools don't look at them. So, got to get rid of that. Transferred from dual enrollment with a 3.46, brought up to a 3.6 last 2 semesters. C in genetics, C in physio, C in orgo 2. Oh no. The trend enough. Those C's later on really hurt. But you have entering senior year, so 3 semesters. How do you have 3 semesters if you're entering senior year? Are those trimesters? That would make sense for 3. Yeah, Joseph, it's not enough data to tell you if the trends are enough or if you're going to need a little bit of post-bac work to bring that trend back up. C's later on, those sting. Those sting. If you've done medical volunteering, shadowing, research, and clinical, do you need leadership or do some of these activities count as leadership, like being a project manager? Yeah, so the interesting thing about leadership is, I'll carry this over here. The interesting thing about leadership is that it doesn't have to, your title doesn't have to convey leadership. Your involvement in your activity, what you actually do, could convey leadership. So, yes, being a project manager for research, potentially you could carve out some of that time and call it leadership. Do you have to have leadership on an application? No. I would say the majority of applications that I look at don't have leadership on them. But the impact that you have, no matter what you're doing, whether you categorize it as research or not, that's what makes a huge difference. Jesse, okay, thank you. I heard med schools don't look at them. May have just been a rumor. Again, anytime you hear a blanket statement that med schools don't or med schools do, ignore it. even from me. And if I say something and you're like, "Wait a minute, Dr. Gray is painting with a broad brush, and broad statements," call me out, and then I'll add more nuance. And what I meant to say was that many, most. When should a graduating student start applying for a gap year job? Do you expect scribe opportunities to diminish? Oh, scribe opportunities are going away actively, actively going away. So yeah, I would look elsewhere. I am excited about the scribe opportunities going away. Let students get other involvement elsewhere. Have lots of honey, great for throat and immune system. Love it. In the AMCAS application, am I allowed to put an activity as two things? For example, leadership and volunteering. Potentially, potentially. You just can't double count the hours. That's the biggest thing. And a COMIS does a good job, like explicitly stating this, saying, "Hey, if you have an activity that crosses two categories, great, go ahead and put it in." At least historically, they've had that. The instruction manual changes year to year potentially, so it may not have that language in there now. It used to. AMCAS has never had, as far as I know, language, at least recently, that says if you have an activity that crosses two things, label it as two things. Part of that is just the limitation in AMCAS that you only have 15 spots um, to um, to uh, to put activities in. So that's part of the limitation. Um, and whereas a COMIS, there is no limit. So yeah, but you could potentially. Currently outlining my personal statement and was concerned about talking about my physician parent as part of my seed for initial interest in med and whether adcoms look down on this. I would say you have to mention your physician parent as part of your initial seed. I would say it should be very brief and you should have a really good reason why you want to be a physician with your other activities. Where students fall short having, and I was talking to a student yesterday whose both parents are physicians, and the one of the physicians was on the call with me, and the student, and the parent was like, "Yeah, having two parents who are physicians, I think, will hurt the application." And I said, "Yeah, it could. It's not an automatic, but it could. Whenever I'm looking at an AMCAS application, I look at the parents and what their occupation is, and I make sure, like, is it physician? Because it's going to caused me to look at that application a little bit more intently to make sure that the student is doing it for themselves. Now, theoretically, ideally, people who are reading the applications are doing that regardless of the parent's occupation. But I think having a parent who is a physician causes some extra scrutiny of like just making sure you're doing this for yourself. Do you have enough clinical experience to understand why you want to take care of patients, not just ride the coattails of your parents coming home talking about how amazing it is taking care of patients, which doesn't really happen. I mean, it does, but so many people just aren't happy with medicine these days. Yeah, just have some good activities. Active duty, U.S. Marine Corps. Thank you for your service. My stats are good. Training up. MCAT is in May with a full length practice, 510. Clinical experience is tough to get. Any recommended activities for active duty applicants? I I think you asked this question the other day, and I thought we answered it. You're just going to have to go out and find as many experiences as possible. I don't think being active duty is reason enough to not have some good activities. You may have to find activities on weekends. Anthony, I think you were mentioning uh, like being a caretaker of a family member, if I remember correctly, Anthony. And we talked about kind of yes, and getting some more. Hospice potentially is might be flexible enough for you If there's a hospital near you that has an emergency departments are open 24/7, 365. So going in on your off days, stuff like that. Um, yeah, you just got to go find those activities. And if there's a medical group on base, whatever you guys call them, squadron, whatever, um, try to get some exposure there. See what they'll let you do. Put yourself out there. Yes, being a caregiver is clinical experience. Taking care of your own family member, a little bit less ideal. Um, as an only activity. Just taking care, and this is, I think, the exact conversation we were having with Anthony the other day. Taking care of your own family member is just different than taking care of someone else. I am a freshman pre-med who hasn't gotten any clinical certifications. If I want to become a CCMA, how can I find a good online program? There are so many. Good thing we have a friend. We have a friend. Capyear.co is our friend. That you can go check out their CCMA Academy and do that. So when you're looking at CCMA or CNA or EMT, first of all, you don't have to have a certification. It depends on what it is you want to do, what experiences are available to you. With the certification, without a certification. So don't feel behind if you don't have a certification yet. Obviously, for typically um, bigger institutions, they're typically going to want people um, who have certifications. So capyear.co, those are our friends. They help sponsor some of the stuff that we do over at Mapped. So go check them out. 700 scribe hours, 100 shadowing, no research, 50 volunteer nonprofit, martial arts coach for kids, leader of Medicare sales team, helping over 400 clients a month. A Medicare sales team. Is it a Medicare Advantage? A Medicare Advantage program? Yosef? That's what I want to know. Any advice? Any advice for what? Hey, Dr. Ryan, would it be considered a red flag that I have my EMT certification since last October? Haven't done anything with it yet. I've been working as an MA for the past year. Nope, not an issue. Third year pre-med has been offered 2 volunteering positions, one with cancer families, another with aging mental health patients. Issues both want minimum 4 hours per week and may affect his grades. 361 so far. I'm assuming the question is which one should he do? Whichever one he feels like he'll enjoy the most. That's the easy answer. Medicare Advantage. Yosef, my first, you're not going to like this answer. My first recommendation is go find another job. Medicare Advantage is a horrible, horrible program. Ask almost every physician out there. Medicare Advantage programs are terrible for patients. Clinical hours to become an EMT. Yeah. I mean, you have scribe hours. The question is, how recent are those hours? Because remember, it's not just I have 700 hours. Now I'm done. It's I have 700 hours and I get 5 hours a week consistently moving forward. So it's about consistency as well. But yes, clinical hours are, for me, always the most important. Our friend Adrian is back. Does shadowing physicians who run their own private practice count for med school? Heck yeah. No, doesn't matter. You have to remember, Adrian, and this is a big point of contention for me, that physicians in academic centers, it's only about 30% of medicine that's practiced. The community medicine is about 70%. So shadowing someone who runs their own private practice is more typical, although more private practices are being bought up by private equity and ruining everything. But that's a whole different story. So yeah, Go shadow private practice. In fact, Adrian, it's what I recommend for students who are like, "Oh, I can't shadow. The hospital system says only med students, because we have a medical school here. Only med students can shadow." I'm like, go out into the community, go find a small private practice, because usually they're a lot more flexible. Oh, if a shadowing position included instances of direct patient interactions, then it's not shadowing. Does that still count as clinical, or does that still fall only under shadowing? I would interpret for the doctor. Yeah, so if you're acting as a medical interpreter, I would say that you can carve that out um, as clinical experience, being a medical interpreter. I would be cautious potentially as well um, that being a medical interpreter without a medical interpreter certification or training may be a concern as well. But that's just potential. Uh, Patient transport to me is one of the weakest things that a student can do, and I wouldn't recommend it. I was looking at an application the other day with a student, and I think this was the student who had like a 4.0 GPA, 522 MCAT score, super solid stats, and patient transporter was like their only clinical experience. And I was like, ah, and they haven't had great success in the application cycle. I don't think patient transport offers enough interaction with patients and enough emotional connection that so you can reflect on it and have those experiences. So, what's up, Michael Motorcycle 131? What's poppin' party people? Does shadowing physicians who primarily practice via telehealth count, and can virtual shadowing be acceptable for med school? Virtual shadowing, I would say, it depends on what language you're using here. Are you with the physician, um, or not? If you're with the physician and the physician is on a computer talking to the patient, I still would count that as shadowing. If you're virtual, if every like the 3 parties are in different locations, I think I like that less. Um, I think when we talk about virtual shadowing, that was something that popped up during COVID, and we did it with our e-shadowing program, where we would basically interview a physician about their specialty and all of the things that they see, and would present a patient typically. That type of virtual shadowing, I would say is not valuable anymore. What do I think about surgical tech for pre-meds? I think it's great. Go for it. Do you mean patient transport within the hospital or interfacility transport as an EMT? I mean patient transport within the hospital, pushing the gurney around. Interfacility transport as an EMT, I think is okay. And I know a lot of EMT programs or services, they kind of have everyone start doing the interfacility transfer. And then you can work your way up to being one of the kind of first responders. Ideally, you're working your way up to be a first responder and you aren't just a glorified Uber driver. But it depends, right? Are you alternating being in the back of the bus versus driving? Like there are still valuable opportunities just doing interfacility transfers as well. All right. Would it be okay to take the MCAT the summer of my freshman year? Who's ready to take the MCAT the summer of your freshman year? What the heck? I need more information there. Nobody should be taking the MCAT the summer of your freshman year. Almost nobody. Wow. I have 1,000 hours of research, and I'm currently a Goldwater nominee. No idea what Goldwater nominee is. I have 300 clinical hours, 50 non-clinical hours. Would having way more research hours and volunteer be looked at as questionable? Yeah, it's actually one of the biggest concerns that we have on an application. It depends on so much more than just the number of hours, but if you have 1,000 hours, you're actively doing research, you're taking a gap year. That's what you're doing during your gap year. At least that's what's portrayed on your application. And your clinical hours are from 2 years ago. That's where things fall off the tracks because it looks like you're so much more interested in research than you are in interacting with patients. So that's the problem. So yeah, it could be a problem. So get consistent, recent, active clinical hours, shadowing hours, non-clinical volunteering, to keep going. Army combat medic here. Thank you for your service. Any thoughts on whether going flight paramedic would be worth the time, effort, investment, and if I'm ultimately interested in pursuing medical school? Tyson, I think the first question is, what does your current service commitment look like? If you go and become a flight paramedic, what does that add to any commitment for you? And if it adds time that you're not willing to potentially give up for the experience, then yeah, that's where to me the equation doesn't work out in favor of being a flight medic. If you're like, I want to be a flight medic, that sounds super awesome. I want to be, I want to go do that, and I'm willing to put off med school for a little bit for that. That's the equation, right? So much of my advice when it comes to being a pre-med student is based in what will make you happy, right? There are other people out there, some people who I call friends, who um, their number one equation is what's the return on investment? If you don't go to medical school as soon as possible so that you can start earning money as a physician as soon as possible, then it's not worth it. And to me, that's just not the equation because my mind and the regrets that play around in my mind, I will live with for the rest of my life. And I don't want to live with regrets because someone told me, "Oh, I need to go be a physician as soon as possible so I can start making money as soon as possible, so I can retire as soon as possible." Like, go live your life. So, uh, Dr. Gray, thanks for your valuable insights. My daughter is getting trained to volunteer at the medical ward at an animal rescue center. Can this experience be added to the medical school application? Absolutely can be added to the application. Um, and I would say it shouldn't be the only clinical experience or only experience. But yes, we see lots of vet experiences and shelter experiences. So go dogs. Yeah. How's that working out for you? We crushed you the other night in basketball. You guys are out of the playoffs. We were never in them. Go Gators. Which MCAT diagnostic exam should be one to take? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Mhm. Sean, any advice if I just like blank on knowing how to answer a secondary, trying to pre-write soon as well? It's still so early to start pre-writing secondary, Sean. But for me, secondaries are the easiest part of this process because the questions are so straightforward. So I wouldn't worry about it. Just answer those questions to the best of your ability. And if you're blanking on one, step away from it and then come back to it. All right. What's going on Instagram? Am I missing anything over here? With the Supreme Court ruling on DEI and college apps, how does this work for med school applications? I mean, affirmative action, the SCOTUS case there was a couple years ago. Um, uh, I had many conversations with deans and directors of admissions. There were lots of presentations at conferences. that I went to where the far majority of deans and directors of admissions said, "Hey, we're race blind already as it is. It doesn't affect our admissions process." Honestly, I think, um, I think where is yeah, this one. Um, I think it's affecting applicants because applicants are deciding, "Oh, now I don't have a shot," and I would and unfortunately, the AAMC doesn't provide enough of this nuanced data, but my guess is that more applicants are deciding not to apply, thinking they don't have a chance because of this, when in reality, they should apply. And yes, talking about your race, but more specifically, how your race or ethnicity has affected your lived experiences, that's what ultimately matters. It's how is it affecting your lived experiences? How are you reflecting on that? That's what matters. The stories, not just I'm black, I'm Asian, I'm Hispanic, whatever. It's tell me about each activity that you had, potentially what that means to you based on race and ethnicity. And part of it, maybe it doesn't, right? Many activities won't have any impact because of your race or ethnicity, but some might. So it just depends. I think race and ethnicity, it's a conversation that will never die. I don't think it needs to die. But remember, if you know my story, I was told more than 20 years ago, I'm a white male. I'm never going to get into med school because there's too many white males applying to medical school. That was my pre-med advisor giving me advice back then. So I think there was some implicit white victimhood in play there based on her part, which we're seeing plenty right now as well. So, yeah, apply. My answer is schools that care about diversity will continue to care about diversity. Schools that don't care about diversity won't won't care about diversity. Is volunteer experience as a 911 EMT looked down upon versus paid? Nope, paid versus volunteer does not matter. When should interview invites be expected? Still have 12 secondary apps unheard from. They're still coming out. They're still coming out. So it just depends. But yes, less and less every day. Hey, Dr. A, I'm an MD PhD applicant. I was very fortunate to receive 6 interview invites. Despite my low MCAT score, I'm a bit worried that my score will bite me back post interview. How much does the MCAT score play a role once the interviews are completed? Jay, it's impossible. Every medical school has a different process. Some medical schools will ignore everything pre-interview. So your essays, your scores, all that stuff. And it's just interview and beyond. Other schools, everything is back on the table and you're compared against everyone that's interviewed and all of their MCAT scores and everything else. You got 6 interview invites. So yeah, there's nothing you can do at this point other than cross your fingers, know that you did a great job. You got 6 interviews. Hopefully you prepared well for those interviews, and come back and let us know, let me know, because I always love dispelling this myth that to get into an MD PhD program, you have to be the perfect applicant, perfect GPA, perfect MCAT score. Christopher, hello, Doctor. I switched from inter-facility EMT to registered behavioral technician for children with ASD. My goal is to be a psychiatrist. Is it more valuable clinical experience than 911 EMT? More valuable to who? That is my question to you. Unfortunately, your question is coming from a standpoint of which one is more valuable to the medical school, and that is just that's the question, the game that I'm trying to get all of you to understand shouldn't be played. Your goal is not to go through your pre-med process and try to be a student doing everything for the medical school. Your goal being a pre-med student is to explore being a pre-med student and explore being a future physician and explore, oh, by the way, you being a growing adult and learning how to be an adult and learning how to be a productive member of society as a normal person too, outside of being a pre-med, outside of education. So all of your passions, all of your interests are important because they are important to you as a person. And then you convey who you are as a person and what your interests are and the things that you have explored, both as questioning this hypothesis of whether or not you want to be a physician and things that you explore because you're passionate about them, whether it's related to music and the arts and whatever, or related to engineering or related to whatever it might be, right? Entrepreneurship that goes on the application, and you craft the application to say, this is who I am. And yeah, there's a part of me that wants to be a physician. Let me tell you about that. And there's a part of me that also includes nothing related to being a physician. And let me tell you about that. So when you ask which one is most valuable or more valuable, I can't answer that because I'm not you. I don't know which one is more valuable to you. Hopefully that helps. Does a competitive scholarship like a Fulbright help in an application? No. Currently have a 510. Do not know if I should retake, focus on other parts of the app. Yeah, retaking a 510, it's completely dependent on you. Like, are you capable of getting more than a 510? Because if you retake it and get another 510 or you get a 508 or less, like that's a concern. If you retake it and you get a 511, that's okay, great. You retook it, but you didn't really score much higher. If you retake it and you get a 518, fantastic. A higher MCAT score always helps. So, good luck. If I am unable to obtain a non-science LOR by the time I apply, is that a deal breaker? It's a deal breaker for schools that require a non-science professor LOR. I've said this a lot recently. I don't have any data to support it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to have data to support it. But I think a lot of applications sit unread because students didn't read the school's requirements for letters of recommendations. I talk to too many students who say, yeah, I have this letter, this letter, this letter. Those are the letters that I'm really excited about, and they know me well. And I'm listening to them. None of them are professors. Maybe one of them's a PI. But these are people that the student is just like, that's who I'm getting letters from because that's who I can get letters from, and those are the letters that I will trust. And there's zero thought to what the med school wants. Every medical school requires something different. Some medical schools don't have any requirements. They say, just send us 3 letters. We don't care. Some medical schools generically have the what we talk about generically or kind of rule of thumb, 2 science, 1 non-science professor. Some medical schools really highly recommend a physician letter. Highly recommend to me is that's required. Just do it. Um, it depends on the schools you're applying to and what letters they require. All right. Can you share some insight on how the apps are viewed by admissions in TMDSAS versus AMCAS other than number of statistics, for example, in terms of activity expectations? Um, I think your question, um, your question is useless. Let me put that bluntly. You're basically asking how does a school review an application? Well, there's 200 plus medical schools. Everyone's going to do something a little bit different. Every reviewer at a medical school may do something different. So my question to you is, what is the goal of this question? Why are we worried about what the med schools are going to do potentially and how they're going to review an application versus go out and do the things that you want to do and apply to the best of your ability with activities that support your reasons for why you want to be a physician, activities that support any other arguments that you're making in your application. For instance, for example, the most popular thing is I really want to serve the underserved. And then I go and look at your activity list and there's nothing in there about serving the underserved. I really want to work in a rural environment. And I go and you look at your activity list and I see nothing about rural activities. You were born in New York City and stayed in New York City and have never left New York City, right? So activity expectations, I would say, and I tell this story all the time. A friend who's a dean of admissions at a medical school in Florida, we were having a conversation, kind of just wrapping up a conference and after tabling and meeting all the students. And he goes, it's really frustrating when students come up to me and say, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? Students are lazy. We can we can kind of say this, right? This is a lazy question. Students are lazy. They want the shortcut. Tell me what to do. And his response when as we're talking is, I'm not looking. We are not, our school, our admissions committee, we're not looking for a specific student. We're looking for who you are and then trying to figure out if that is something that we're interested in. So get rid of constantly trying to figure out what the schools want and do things that you're interested in and do things that will continue to confirm that you want to be a physician, that you enjoy taking care of patients, that you enjoy being around patients, that you enjoy the clinical environments, that you enjoy the life of a physician and their excuse me, um their daily work that they do, right? Through shadowing, through clinical experience. That's what it's all about. All right, friends. I think I will end here and go rest my voice for a little bit. I got some calls later. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm glad I didn't have too many coughing fits. Still getting over my little super flu thing that I've had. I've been sick for, I don't know, 3+ weeks at this point. Going on 4 weeks now. It's crazy. So anyway, hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.